The Q&A section of Nintendo's recent fiscal quarter financial report has now come out from Nintendo, and there's a lot of juicy things in there, some that we might cover in future videos, some stuff that might end up on next week's podcast. But one thing I want to focus on now is that Nintendo's, Shintaro Furukawa, the new CEO and president, answered a question dealing with the fact that Switch is missing some significant titles. I don't know that this is in direct reference to something like Red Dead Redemption 2, but that would be just an example of a major title Switch is not getting. So here's the question. A lot of people seem to feel that there are major titles from other publishers that are missing on Nintendo Switch. Are you currently doing anything to address that? Also, do you think the situation will change in the next fiscal year or later? Here's what Furukawa had to say in response. We believe that giving consumers a wide selection of software is an extremely important part of operating our platforms. That is why we welcome the introduction of a variety of titles from many different software publishers. Even so, I do not think it is realistic to expect that every major title will become available on Nintendo Switch. We are speaking with publishers about them actively putting titles on Nintendo Switch that would be an especially good fit for its unique features as a home console system that you can carry around, including handheld mode, and the ability to bring systems together for local multiplayer. Given the strong publisher support Nintendo Switch has, I would expect the number of titles will increase a lot more. That is what really keeps the Nintendo Switch business on the right track. However, the 10th question of it, because that was question 13, included a part of an answer that I think is relevant as well. It says, generally, I think having the Nintendo Switch software lineup augmented by titles from publishers who make use of cloud gaming technologies is a very positive thing. And it is really meaningful in terms of expanding our user base, because there are some titles that probably could not be offered on Nintendo Switch any other way. So a couple takeaways here. One, Furukawa was fully aware that there are limitations with Switch that's going to prevent certain titles from coming to the platform. So the focus from publishers are on titles that just make sense on the platform with its local multiplayer, with its portability in mind, all that stuff. So he's admitting Nintendo's not really going to get all of those games. But he also is saying that there is something to be said about cloud gaming, and that he thinks Nintendo needs to really expand on the cloud gaming technologies. They need to make use of those technologies. They need to get publishers on board that are using those technologies so they can continue to expand Switch's library with games that otherwise couldn't be on the platform. And obviously, we already have two examples of this in Japan with Resident Evil 7 and, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We've also seen how Assassin's Creed Odyssey has kind of become this general use and test case for the entire industry to see how viable cloud gaming even is over here in, say, the United States. And I can say from my own personal experience, although everyone's experience is going to vary, that I have had excellent results playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey through the Google Chrome browser. That's right, I am in that beta program. I've live streamed it before. It worked flawlessly. Now, during the live stream, I was using my home network connection, which I would say is probably not what the average consumer is using in the United States. In fact, the average consumer, according to a lot of reports out there, is working with about 15 down and 10 up, whereas I'm working with 400 down and 20 plus up. So I'm not really in that average. I'm well above that with a business line. So obviously, that was not a good representation of what the average consumer would use. So I actually tested it out with 4G LTE off my phone, tethered to my laptop, and lo and behold, I was able to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey just fine. It kind of downsampled or downscaled itself down to about 720p instead of the 1080p I was getting on my home network. But still, that's perfectly playable, and I never got disconnected. So I don't know what that says, but 4G LTE is far more in line with the average download speeds. Actually, it's well below the average download speeds out there. So honestly, I think we're at a point where cloud gaming is way more viable than ever. I talked about before how Nintendo really, really should embrace cloud gaming. And this is whether or not Nintendo sets up a network for cloud gaming or has a sector of their company, as Furukawa is kind of suggesting, where they encourage companies that are exploring cloud technology to include Switch in that exploration process. Now, again, we haven't seen this release outside of Japan, where Japan has some of the best internet infrastructure in the entire world. I mean, where our average is like 15 down there, their average is like 500 down, and that's like everywhere. You could be on a train and you're getting usable internet for this kind of stuff. I do think we're obviously a long ways away from that sort of infrastructure here in the US, but I don't think that means that it's impossible for us to have cloud gaming. In fact, cloud gaming already exists on the PlayStation 4 with their classic library of games. Cloud gaming is coming next year from Xbox. We already know they've announced that. The cloud gaming is coming from Google. We know other services out there already exist for cloud gaming that are used on a smaller scale, including NVIDIA, who has their own cloud gaming going on with the Tegra stuff, with their own, NVIDIA Shield TV consoles. So, again, this technology is out there. It exists, and Nintendo's going to take advantage of it. So what does this mean overall for the future of games on Nintendo's platforms? I think it means that Nintendo is really trying their best to find a way that there's at least one form to play most video games out there on Switch. Even if you can't take advantage of the Switch in every situation, on the go, all this stuff, you will at least be able to have an option to play games out there. Where I think the concern, I think why people ask, what's Nintendo going to do to address the fact that they don't get all the AAA games? I think the concern is that a lot of people prefer all-in-one platforms. That's kind of like, why did cell phones, smartphones blow up? Because it kind of became our all-in-one computing device, even more so than our home computers and laptops, because you could do a lot of things with your phone all in one device. And while we're not saying that, dedicated gaming devices need to be these giant multimedia boxes, which they've sort of become that in some ways. I mean, heck, for all the crap that, Xbox was getting for a cable pass-through in the Xbox One, PlayStation launched their literal own TV service. So they're just as all in on the multimedia front, even more so possibly than Microsoft was. But no one really cared about that. Maybe because they advertised PlayStation for gamers first, which is obviously the ideal situation for a dedicated gaming box. So I think what Nintendo is looking at here is we need to provide a way for the Switch as a gaming machine to be a one-stop for everyone, where it is possible that there is a consumer out there that might only own a Switch, but will have the opportunity to play most of the major games that release on that platform, even if they can't play it in every form that platform, supports. And I think that's good. I think that's a really good thing. I think that's a very positive direction for Nintendo. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, all of the footage coming out of Japan is showing how excellent it runs on there. I've seen how excellent it runs in a web browser on crappy hardware because it's not really using your computer hardware. That's the beauty of how Google services work. So I'm very excited to see where this is going to head in the future, both from Nintendo getting more support natively on the platform with third-party multi-platform games that make sense, like the Doom Eternals of the world, hopefully Diablo 4, but I also am looking forward to, the games that don't make as much sense, like the Assassin's Creeds of the world, maybe we could get cloud versions that just released worldwide that make a lot of sense and just function. I know there's going to be that's going to start a whole new pricing strategy about, how much are we paying for the access for these cloud games because we don't own them, or rental services, or the year passes. How's that all going to be handled? A lot of that's up in the air, and we don't know how pricing is going to shake out at the end. I mean, obviously, my experience with it is completely for free until January, but it's going to cost money after that. So it's very interesting to see where it's going, but I like what Furukawa is saying. Furukawa is saying, look, we know we can't get every title on Switch. We're trying. We're pushing publishers to bring stuff. But in the event that there are games they can't bring, cloud technology provides a solution. And I like that thought process from Nintendo. That's Nintendo. That's the Nintendo I said needs to go all in and buy in on cloud services. Well, Nintendo might not ever launch, or at least anytime soon, launch their own cloud service, which I think would be more ideal. I do think that what Nintendo is trying to do is encourage something that is going to make their platform a lot more viable for a longer period of time as the tech specs become less and less relevant due to cloud gaming. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I know there's a lot of people that hate cloud gaming based on my last video I made about cloud gaming. I know there's a lot of people that are worried about the viability of physical games. And I think at the end of the day, we all can agree that cloud gaming does not replace physical games. Obviously, in an ideal world, Switch would get every single game under the sun, physical form with all of the data on the carts. But as is, we just got to do the best with what we have. And what we have right now is a highly successful platform that Nintendo is trying to find any possible way to get as many games on as it can. Alright folks, I'm Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, smash it even, because the more of you that like it, the more people that actually get sent notifications for this video. Beyond that, if you would like to enter a Nintendo Switch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Switch giveaway, man, I just repeated Nintendo Switch twice. I'm losing it. There's a Gleam.io link down in the description. Otherwise, folks, I'll catch you in the next one.